Okay, we're going to continue on in the Apocrypha. This is the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 11. I will be found keen in judgment, and I will be admired in the presence of monarchs. When I am silent, they will wait for me to speak, and when I speak, they will pay attention. And if I talk at some length, they will put their hands over their mouths. Because of her, I will have immorality, and leave an everlasting memory to those who come after me. I will govern peoples, and nations will be subject to me. Dread sovereigns will be frightened when they hear of me. Among the people, I will appear good and in war brave. When I enter my house, I will find rest with her. For intercourse with her has no bitterness, and living with her no grief, but gladness and joy. When I consider these things with myself and reflected in my mind, that in kinship with wisdom there is immorality, and in her friendship there is pure delight, and unfailing wealth in the labors of her hands, and understanding in the experience of her company, and glory in sharing in her words. I went about seeking how to win her for myself. I was a well-formed child, and a good soul fell to me. Or rather, I was good and entered an undefiled body. But I perceived that I could not win her unless God gave her to me. And this too came of understanding to know from whom the favor came. I appealed to the Lord and besought him, and said with all my heart, God of my forefathers and merciful Lord, who created all things by your word, and by your wisdom formed man to rule over the creatures you had made, and manage the world in holiness and uprightness, and pass judgment in rectitude of soul. Give me the wisdom that sits by your throne, and do not reject me as unfit to be one of your servants. For I am your slave and the son of your maidservant, a man weak and short-lived, and inferior in my understanding of judgment. For even if one among the sons of men is perfect, if the wisdom that comes from you is lacking, he will count for nothing. You have chosen me out to be king of your people, and to be judge of your sons and daughters. And you told me to build a sanctuary on your holy mountain, and an altar in the city where you dwell, a copy of the holy tent which you prepared in the beginning. And with you is wisdom, which knows your works, and was present when you made the world, and understands what is pleasing in your sight, and what is in accord with your commands. Send her forth from the holy heavens, and dispatch her from your glorious throne, to be with me in toil, and so that I may know what is pleasing to you. For she and understands all things, and she will guide me with good sense in my actions, and will guard me with her splendor. Then my doings will be acceptable, and I will judge your people uprightly, and be worthy of the throne of my Father. For what man can know the counsel of God, or who can decide what the Lord wills? For the calculations of mortals are timid, and our designs are likely to fail. For a perishable body weighs down the soul, and its earthly tent burdens the thoughtful mind. We can hardly guess at things upon the earth, and we have hard work finding the things that are just at hand. But who has tracked out these things in heaven? And who has learned your counsel unless you gave him wisdom and sent your Holy Spirits from on high? So the paths of those who were on the earth were straightened, and men were taught the things that please you, and were saved by wisdom. It was she that protected the firstborn father of the world in his loneliness after his creation, and rescued him from his transgression, and gave him strength to master all things. And when an unrighteous man abandoned her in his anger, he perished in his fretful rage. When the earth was deluged because of him, wisdom again saved the upright man, steering him with a cheap piece of wood. It was she that, when the nations were confused in their wicked conspiracy, recognized the upright man and preserved him blameless before God, and kept him steadfast against having pity on his child. When the ungodly were perishing, she saved an upright man, who fled from the fire that descended on the 5 towns, to their wickedness a smoking waste. Still bears lasting witness, as do trees that bear fruit that never ripens, and a pillar of salt that stands as a memorial of an unbelieving soul. For because they passed wisdom by, they were not only made incapable of recognizing what was good, but also left behind to them a life, a memorial of their folly, so that their faults could not pass unnoticed. But wisdom delivered those who served her from their troubles. An upright man who was a fugitive from a brother's wrath, she guided in straight paths. She showed him God's kingdom and gave him knowledge of holy things. She made him prosper in his toils and increased the fruit of his labors. When those who oppressed him were covetous, she stood by him and made him rich. She protected him from his enemies and kept him safe from those who lay in wait for him, and decided his hard contest in his favor, so that he would know that godliness is stronger than anything. When an upright man was sold, she did not abandon him, but delivered him from sin. She went down into the pit with him. She did not leave him in prison until she brought him the scepter of a kingdom and power over those who lorded it over. She showed that they were false who had blamed him, and she gave him everlasting honor. She delivered from a nation of oppressors, a holy people, and a blameless race. She entered the soul of a servant of the Lord, and withstood awe-inspiring kings with portents and signs. And she paid to holy men a reward for their tolls. She guided them along a wonderful way, and became a shelter for them in the daytime, and a flame of stars at night. She brought them over the Red Sea, and led them through the deep waters. But their enemies she overwhelmed, and cast them up from the bottom of the deep. Therefore the upright despoil the ungodly, and they sang, Lord, of your holy name, and praised with one accord your defending hand. For wisdom opens the mouth of the dumb, and makes the tongues of babes speak plainly. She made their doings prosper by means of a holy prophet.